Well, welcome back. I'm on an absolute gem of an adventure today, which has brought me up the side of Victoria's highest peak, Mount Bogong, which is over the ridgeline there somewhere, to a little spot that I found out about through chance, which is hidden up here in the bush. Now, in Australia and in Victoria, we have these hydroelectric schemes that use water coming off the mountains, obviously, to generate hydroelectricity. There's one up in the Snowy Mountains in New South Wales. It's the biggest in Australia, called the Snowy Hydro Scheme. But we're here in Victoria on a very small scale hydroelectric scheme that's used to generate power here, coming off the side of the Victorian Alps. And the spot we're in today is the Bogong Creek Aqueduct. Now, it's not really the aqueduct that I've come to see, but I've come to see what they used to build the aqueduct, and you can see it right here. They've got a little self-contained railway here that they actually used to build this aqueduct and then also to service it. So here is the aqueduct, and it's basically a man-made creek. The reason they built this is to supplement water going into the east branch of the Kiewa River, coming off the Bogong Creek and all of the gullies that will then feed extra water into that hydroelectric system. So they've got extra reserves of water to be able to generate the hydroelectricity at the plant, which is just down the bottom here, at the bottom of, I think it's called Lake Guy. So this means that they get a whole heap of extra watershed to run into that scheme to be able to continuously generate hydroelectricity. The aqueduct's actually made out of concrete, so you can imagine how hard it would have been to lug concrete all the way along this aqueduct, and hence why this little tramway was built, so they could ferry up the concrete after they'd brought the aggregate down and made the cutout for the aqueduct there. The tram line itself is about 8 kilometres long, but I believe the aqueduct actually goes a bit further than that. So I don't think we'll be able to reach the actual terminus of the tram line today, but we'll definitely see how far we can get, especially now that we're using the mountain bike to make it a bit quicker than actually walking, because it is actually a fairly level gradient. It's only got a very slight fall to take it down here to then be fed into the east branch of the Kiewa River. There you go. For all the rail fans out here, the gauge of this line is 3 feet. From what I can see, there are several different types of carriages here for the tramway. This one here appears to be a side dumping bucket, which potentially would have brought all of the rubble that they dug out of the aqueduct back here for removal, or it may have even been used to take the cement up the aqueduct and then tip in there so that they could form the aqueduct. So probably got a couple of uses, that thing. And it brings us on to what looks to be a bit more sort of modern servicing carriages. They're actually really in good condition, these things, so I'm not sure that they're actually that old. And you can see there's another one of those side dumping buckets over the back there. But then we've also got these ones. There's these big sort of I don't know what you'd call them, big containers. It looks like it's got a hopper on the bottom, so it's probably a hopper. May have even been used to cart the ballast up the track, perhaps, or it's actually the cement that's going up there, or it's the aggregate coming back. So it's definitely used to transport some sort of building material up and down the tramway here. And you can see here's another one here that's been taken off its carriage. Now these ones here look to be water carting containers, because they've got basically a covered tank with a hole in the top there, probably used in the construction of the aqueduct as well. Bit hollow at the moment, nothing in there by the sounds of it. Big gal ones though, geez, they're thick. And then there's a different kind of hopper up here, this one. I'm not sure what this steel is laying here. You've got these sort of 90-degree arc bits of I-beam there. may have been used for the forms to form the aqueduct perhaps. Those ones there probably definitely are. That's exactly the shape of what the aqueduct is there, that little trapezoidal shaped one. And we've got some old rail wheels hanging out over there. And I believe those steel beams over there are replacement sleepers for the line. And that's actually a bit of a story I want to tell as well. So back in 2003, there was a series of bushfires that swept through the area here, and the tramway was damaged during that bushfire there, and I think that was part of perhaps the demise of the tramway here. I was informed though that they did some remedial works following the bushfires by using those steel sleepers I pointed out to replace the burnt wooden ones, but it doesn't appear to have been used since then. And here's some good evidence of what actually happened during those fires. This cart here was completely burnt out, and considering that it looks like it had seating in it, it's probably a carriage to transport workers up and down the line. And I'll show you the rail motor in there in a sec too. Here's one of the rail motors that they would have used to transport the carts up and down the aqueduct here. You can see it's got a bit of a little 4-cylinder diesel engine in there. Not really much involved with these things, and there's looks like a bit of a seat there, and some sort of brake in that as well. So there would have been 1 or 2 people riding on this, pulling the carts up and down the tramway there to build and service it. Anyway, we might jump on the new rocket and start riding up the tramway now and see what we can see. There is a little obstacle that I've heard about that's a bit further down, where we may have to dump the bike and continue on foot though, so let's go and see what we can see. Up to a funny little rail bridge here that's got no bottom in it, and I don't want to pull the bike across it, so I think I'm going to ditch the bike here anyway, because I've hardly ridden it since I've left the rail head back there, so I think we'll go on foot from here. Yes, I am out in a remote area all by myself today in fairly treacherous conditions, looking at the slopes down the hill here, but it is always a good idea to carry some sort of safety device. I've got my InReach here, which I've subscribed to Garmin with the monthly subscription, so I've got this SOS button that I can hit if I get in trouble, get injured or whatever. So it's always a good idea to bring some sort of safety communication device with you when you're out on remote hikes like this. I've been going for about half an hour now since I left the railhead there, and I've come across a little siding here. It's not very long, looks like it's just a little ballast siding. I can see a pile of ballast down the end of the siding there, and there's another cute little set of points here. Let's see if they work. Alright, let's go and see where the siding leads to. Only looks like it's about 40 metres long. Yep, definitely for ballast this siding. Anyway, we'll keep going. Some spooky sound coming out of there. The aqueduct goes underground for a little bit, and I don't know why. Let's see how far it goes underground for. There you go, it's only about 40 metres. Just odd that it just seems to go underground just at that spot. Yeah. Got another siding here, but it looks like it joins back on, so it must be like a passing loop so that rail cars can go in either direction and pass each other. Those points work as well. Let's go and have a look at the other end. Alright, I'm continuing on walking. Now, there's a little bit of an obstacle that I've heard about up here further, which is where the aqueduct passes under a gully or a creek or something and goes through a pipe. And I believe that the rail bridge has either been destroyed there, washed away, burnt in the fires or something like that, and it may be impassable. So I'll see if I can get up to there, but I'm getting close to my turnaround time. So I've got 2 hours drive back home once I get back to the car, so I cannot dilly-dally much longer. The key thing is though, I do have the bike and I can shred it downhill all the way back to the car mostly, so I may be able to make up some time back there, but I don't think I can go too much further, and I definitely can't go the rest of the way to the terminus at the other end. And look at this beautiful picture. Lovely to see the, I'm going to say the west summit of Mount Bogong, the tallest summit in Victoria. This setup here looks to be a bit of a diversion dam there. If they want to meter the flow of water going down the aqueduct, there's a little dike here that they can lift up and let water run down this creek here. Probably just a way to keep the natural flows going, and also to meter the flows. If they've got too much flow going in, they can let a bit of it out further upstream. So sounds like a healthy solution. I'm getting kind of close to my turnaround time. I set myself a turnaround time of 1 o'clock. So I'm only about 20 minutes away from there. So if I don't reach that pipe that the aqueduct runs through, I'm going to have to turn around and go back. Always important to set your turnaround times on one way in, one way out hikes like this. Make sure that you don't get back too late and then people start coming to look for you. This is an interesting situation here. The rail line actually goes out and on top of the aqueduct. Obviously they didn't have enough room here to run them side by side. And I think I can hear a really sort of heavy running stream just around the corner there. So that might be where I'm going to turn around and start heading back. Anyway, let's walk across this little bit here and try not to fall through the gaps. Here's another little dike in the aqueduct that helps to divert water down the creek here. Looks like there's a bit of a dam or something that builds it up against the aqueduct there, and then I can hear the pipe running the creek out way down there. It's definitely like a big sump there where the water obviously goes down way down, come out that pipe down there. And this pipe here looks to be where the natural creek is diverted around and into the aqueduct to either be used down in the hydroelectric plant or then diverted back to its natural course following the creek line down that way. Unfortunately, it seems like I've reached my turnaround time, so I cannot go any further down here without risking being late back home and having someone come out and try and look for me because they think I'm lost. I did tell my wife that I'd be back by a certain time, but just in case I've got no phone service up here and I'm a bit late, I don't want that to happen, so always good to play it safe when you're on your own. I do, however, plan for contingencies. As I said, I've got my InReach SOS communicator, but I also have this little, where is it? I have this little attachment that I always bring on my backpack, which has some essentials. Say if I was injured and had to stay out overnight, it's got like a foil blanket. It's got water filtration devices. It's got fire starting devices, knives, what else? Bandages, a bit of first aid kit there as well. So whenever I come on any of these hikes by myself, I always bring that with me because you never know when you run into trouble. Sorry, you never know when you're going to run into trouble where you might need to have to stay out overnight. If something happens, say you break your leg, yes, you can use the InReach communicator, but once it gets dark, a helicopter is not going to want to come here and lift you out. I know they could probably use the rail line to come find me, but again, you don't want to put people in those sorts of situations where they've got to risk their life to come out and save you as well. So always a good thing to be prepared when you're coming out on these hikes on your own. And obviously tell someone where you're going to, that's always handy. Now that we've seen everything that we've seen on the way down here, I'm going to put this camera away and I'm going to book it back to the bike as fast as I can, then ride the bike back to the terminus, back to the railhead, and then fly down the hill back to the car. And just like that, I'm back at the railhead. It's funny how quickly you can go when you're not stopping to film all the time. Probably took me about 2 hours to walk out there and about half an hour to come all the way back. So just goes to say how much effort goes into putting one of these videos together when you're stopping all the time to film stuff. All right, now comes the fun bit. Get on the bike and race down the hill back to the car. Thanks for watching, everybody.